Civics review. So today it's all gonna be briefly covered, and if you catch me misspeaking, please call me out or please correct me because I'm not an expert at civics. I did take it several times and throughout high school and middle school, different parts of the country. So I feel like I've taken a lot of classes in it. So it's the basics of how laws are made, how they're constructed, and then also the two different ways, which is the legislative branch, so that how statutes are created, how legislation is made. That's a different kind of law than case law or judge-made law, which is the judicial system. So we'll talk about the basics, and it's good for you to have kind of like a structure that there are these different things, because once you get into something like Westlaw, it will just, and you get results back, you'll get this sort of mismatch of it's good to know where it comes from, and to have that structure just always in the back of your head. I'm sorry it's so dark. I'm doing this outside and it's kind of the weather's kind of bad. So the laws are considered primary sources, and there's a little bit of a different sense of primary and secondary source when you talk about legal resources from, say, history. The law itself is a primary source, and any kind of law is a primary source, or any kind of rule that is considered a primary source. And then the kinds of writings that explain the law in this field are known as secondary sources. So anything that helps you find the law is considered, and commentary on the law are secondary sources. There are two different routes for how laws are made. These are the basic ones, and that is through legislation and through case law. So they work differently. So the products of those processes look different, and you usually find them in different places. Finding aids, so those are can be books or series of books or tools that help you find the law. They can come in a lot of different forms and formats. Those are known as secondary sources. And it's different from historical sources. And I had to look this up, so I have. And then I think they're tertiary sources in that historical sense. So, and I think social sciences talk about it this way. So in that sense, primary sources are things that were made at the time or contemporaneous with the time of study, and then secondary sources were made later, and they usually interpret the primary sources. And then tertiary sources, they combine and distill the primary and secondary sources. So that doesn't really apply here. So when you hear me talking about primary and secondary, just know that I'm talking about it in this sort of legal studies sense, which is different.